Hey turn-based lovers, this is Leaf, back with you again with another turn-based RPG that deserves your attention. Now, I know some of you may be experiencing some pixel fatigue when it comes to these smaller turn-based titles, but trust me on this, you won't want to miss out on this one. So what we'll be covering today is a special little game called Fretless, the Wrath of Riffson. Developed by Ritual Studios and published by Playdigious, Fretless is a classic guitarPG inspired by the real-life musician Rob Scallon. You can find Rob's music and content over on his YouTube channel of the same name, Rob Scallon. Now, this video is sponsored by Fretless, but I can confidently say that I did enjoy this game a lot, playing through all of it. I haven't really gotten to 100% the game, but it was a great experience nonetheless. So thank you Ritual Studios and Playdigious for giving us the opportunity to try the game out before its release and for sponsoring this video. In Fretless, you play as, well, Rob, or Robert as he's sometimes referred to as. He's this friendly musician who is yearning to compete in the biggest event of his lifetime, the upcoming Battle of the Bands, which is pretty much the talk of the town throughout this game and is hosted by the infamous Super Metal Records. The world of Fretless is super in tune with music, and not just the people but the world of Fretless itself. Like, look at these bell flowers, they're literally bell flowers, and they even chime when you brush against them. And you'll encounter more of these musical interactables in this world as you play through the game, and while they don't really add any significance to the main gameplay, these tiny little details add so much mood and substance to the world of Fretless, cementing the idea that this world does not simply enjoy music, but is shaped by it as well. Fretless does a great job at incorporating this music-first concept to not just its world, but even to its core gameplay features. The world has a lot of interactables and sometimes even simple musical puzzles that you will have to solve at some point. The equipment system showcases instruments as opposed to the usual magic and steel that we've grown accustomed to in fantasy RPGs. And the game has this interactive combat system that blends musical concepts into a digestible experience that anyone can easily play and enjoy. It's unique, intuitive, and a whole lot of fun. The game itself is a fairly bite-sized experience compared to a lot of other games out there. It's a good 6 to 7 hour playthrough, but your actual playtime may be extended if you're looking to collect each and every single collectible in the game. But these collectibles aren't just for achievements, they're mostly for gearing up your instruments that can modify your playstyle. Save for these trophies that seem to just be your usual collectible. I don't really know what they're there for yet, but who knows. Maybe you get the true ending if you beat the final boss while having all the trophies? Maybe this game has a deeper layer that I haven't peeled through yet. But if not, it was still an incredibly enjoyable experience nonetheless. As I mentioned earlier, Fretless is a fairly small game, so in extension, it also has a fairly small world that you'll be exploring. But it's not really a bad thing, especially considering how, while this game's pixel art style is really pleasant to look at, the zones start feeling very repetitive real fast. So having me jump into a new zone before the previous one overstays its welcome is probably the better decision for this game design. But still, this game's world is pretty fun to explore. You'll journey across a variety of different biomes, each with their own unique look, gimmick, and populated with their own unique set of monsters. And did I mention that this world is super in tune with music? Well, even the enemies that you'll be facing, well, at least most of them, are also some type of instrument or musician. Like, I just can't get over this Silomander. Just look at this thing, and it even plays itself while doing certain actions in combat. And this game just has a lot of these musical wonders to discover, and it's honestly a pretty refreshing experience having a brand new theme explored in the medium of RPGs. And while there may have been music-themed RPGs in the past, I'm pretty sure that there's only a handful of them in the market. You start out each zone in a safe area, check whatever new items are available for you to grab, buy new stuff when you can, move on to the next area, fight enemies, do a puzzle, fight the boss, and you'll basically be doing this right up until the game ends once you beat the final boss. There's also a bunch of chests and collectibles that you can find in the world, keeping you engaged while you're out exploring. So throughout your playthrough, you'll never really run out of stuff to do, as the game does its best to keep you engaged from start to finish. Fretless features a classic turn-based combat system, but with its own unique twists. It adds these gimmicks to its combat that enhances interactivity, but the thing is, its combat is still derived from the classic turn-based RPGs, so even if you ignore these gimmicks, you'll still be able to play the game fairly well. But of course, choosing to play with it makes your experience in this game a whole lot easier, and they're honestly pretty fun. But I think I'm getting way ahead of myself. So what exactly are these gimmicks, and how does Fretless's combat actually work? First, let's talk about the game's core combat mechanics. It's kind of a mix of Sea of Stars' timing combat system and Slay the Spire's deck combo system. In Fretless, you play a sequence of riffs in an arrangement. Riffs are basically your skill or abilities, and an arrangement is a sequence of up to 3 riffs that you can play in a single turn. The system sounded new and experimental to me at first, and my biggest concern was the balancing in terms of the combat experience, especially how I've never really heard of Ritual Studios till now, and as far as I know, Fretless is their first ever game, so I don't really have any frame of reference for how they make RPGs, but surprisingly enough, combat actually felt good. You know, balanced, and it was actually a pretty fun experience, but I digress. After you put your riffs into the arrangement and hit shred, Rob will then play the actions in a sequence, but there are multiple layers of depth in this combat system. Whenever you or the enemy performs an attack, you can time your left click to either enhance your damage when attacking or reduce the enemy's damage when defending. There's also these buffs and debuffs called chains, and they can either simply augment your attacks or be its own entirely different playstyle. You'll get to fight different types of enemies in this game, but most of them are easily felled by any type of attack really. But there are a few outliers like the Bellstale, a monster that only ever takes 1 damage whenever it receives your attacks, and the only efficient way to actually beat it is to damage it with non-direct damage, usually the chains or by a couple of the synths mods. The synth is one of the 4 instruments that you'll get to play with in this game. There's also these ultimate abilities called crescendos. You fill up your crescendo bar by successfully hitting QTEs, the timing thing I talked about earlier, and once it's full, you can use it to shred some massive damage. When casting a crescendo, you'll be playing this little rhythm minigame, where successful QTEs will then enhance the crescendo's final damage. Instead of having a wide range of equipment types like how it usually is in other RPGs, Fretless keeps things simple by giving you access to only 4 main instruments, particularly the acoustic guitar, the bass, the synth, and the 8-string. Each and every single one of these instruments have their own unique playstyle, and any of them is a valid choice for finishing the game with. There's a ton of different playstyles that you can try, even within a single instrument, especially considering how you'll be unlocking a ton of additional riffs throughout your journey. So there is more than one way to tackle combat in Fretless, and there's quite a bunch actually, but they're all kind of viable, and I'm pretty confident that most of the playstyles any of you come up with will be viable for beating the final boss. You also get these mods that you can slot into your instruments to modify how they work, augmenting your playstyle accordingly. There's also these things called pedals that, when equipped, give you global effects that activate under certain conditions. There's a ton of playstyles that you can try in this game, and I myself have only really scratched the surface of everything this game has to offer. I opted to go all in on the acoustic guitar and pretty much finish the game with it. Choosing which instrument to use is entirely up to you. All of them are great and have their own quirks, but they are all valid choices. It's also worth noting that every unique area and the many different boss fights all come with a unique backing track that blends really well, almost seamlessly, with the music created by your attacks. The music themselves don't really merge together to create a symphony, but the looping backtrack would transition into Rob's music whenever you're attacking and transition back into the backtrack very seamlessly. There's a lot of tracks to listen to in this game, and personally, I think they are all great. I also don't recall getting tired of any certain tracks in the game, even though each zone's battle track gets replayed over and over again whenever you enter combat in that certain area, but that's just me. I think I just really genuinely enjoy this game's music more than anything. Now, while Fretless's combat has a surprising amount of depth, its overall game design is still geared towards the casual player base. This game is pretty easy, and there aren't really any major consequences for losing a fight. You just respawn to the starting point of the zone and you can simply try again. You also don't really lose anything, maybe except the potions that you use when you lost that battle, but that's really about it. This game isn't really designed to challenge you, rather it simply wants you to enjoy the journey ahead and experience the game in all of its glory comfortably at your own pace. Fretless is a game that doesn't overstay its welcome. It's a good 6 to 7 hour experience depending on how you play the game, but compared to a ton of other RPGs that literally takes days to finish, Fretless exemplifies the idea that sometimes less is more. My experience playing this game has been quite memorable, and despite not having been designed with replay value in mind, I'm already kind of rearing to go to start another save to play around with the other instruments that I kind of neglected on my first playthrough. I only really have good things to say about this game, and while this is a sponsored video, I've generally enjoyed each and every second I've had playing this game. It's a tiny little video game from a fairly unknown studio, but it's starting to look like the start of something great. Fretless is by no means a hard or challenging game. In fact, it's fairly easy. Probably save for the final boss, but I'll leave that up to you guys to discover. But it doesn't really bother you with overly complicated puzzles, frustrating battles, or even tedious exploration. It's just a fun, stroll in the park experience that is perfect for gaming casuals and gaming veterans that are overdue for that refreshing change of scenery. That's about it for this video, and as always, leave a like if you like the video, subscribe if you're new around here, and make sure to follow turn-based lovers for everything turn-based. This has been Leaf, and I'll see you guys on the next one.